Matt, when quizzed about the draw yesterday, you said your eyes were most firmly fixed on Iga Swiatek, the top seed, the women's world number one, and what her draw would end up looking like, what her projected draw would end up looking like. I think actually what's happened is Swiatek's draw across the men's and the women's of any of the top seeds is probably the most interesting, I would say.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I think it would have been an interesting draw anyway, just because we haven't seen Iga Swiatek on the grass yet. She comes into Wimbledon on I think it's a 19-match winning streak that she's on currently, and yet how is she going to adapt to the grass? So it was going to be interesting regardless of the names that came out with her, but the names that have come out make it really interesting. I mean, straight away, Sofia Kenin, first round, a repeat of the first round from the Australian Open this year, which Swiatek won in 2 sets, but the first set was a tie break. And, you know, Kenin has just been a player over the last year or so who has not been consistent at all. She's had a string of poor results, but then occasionally she has popped up and had a big win. I'm thinking here last year against Coco Gauff. She beat Ons Jabeur in Rome recently. She beat Caroline Garcia at the French Open and got to the third round there. So there have been little signs. She did lose in qualifying on the grass last week, won and loved to Golubich, and ended up getting in as a lucky loser, which I think speaks to that inconsistency that I'm talking about.
Doesn't look great, that won and loved to Golubich, does it?
I think it looks great for Iga Swiatek. But yeah, look, it's a dangerous name, and they continue. You know, Putintseva is in there, has just won a title on the grass. Actually, Kerber is in there. Siniakova has won a title on grass before, and that is before you get to the real name in Iga Swiatek's section, which is Jelena Ostapenko, who has beaten Swiatek 4 times out of 4 and is a potential 4th round opponent.
4 times out of 4, she's a danger, more than a danger really. She's a massive problem for Swiatek on any surface. Probably most so on grass, though, David. This is look, the question is whether Ostapenko gets there, really. But if she does, that is a big problem for Iga Swiatek.
Yeah, I think it is a big question mark over whether she gets there, because she's got Ajla Tomljanovic as Ostapenko in the first round, which is...
We will be talking about that. That will be getting a moment of focus in due course. Yeah.
But, you know, you never know what she's going to throw at you, and it can sometimes be an absolute dud from Ostapenko. She can just really disappoint, but
less so this year though. She has got some consistency together.
She did at the start of the season. Okay. I think it's tailed off.
The thing is, I'd be fascinated to ask her. I think she will know that draw, and that she will be
Ostapenko
super motivated to get there and have another crack at her.
Is this going to be another David goes into a press conference and reveals a draw to a player,
gets told off,
or pivots and comes up with a totally new question on the spot?
I will certainly be broaching the subject, put it that way, just seeing. And I don't think Ostapenko is the sort that's going to mind in the slightest. I think she could tell you she's going to play in the final.
I agree with you about that. Yeah.
But I won't forget what she did to her at the US Open in particular, because we came into that event and I think Swiatek, I pretty much say that she's the favourite every time we have one of these tournaments, well, no matter where it is, even Wimbledon. We'll wait and see over the next couple of days whether I go with that or not, because, you know, I think I've got to have a proper look at this draw, because this is as tough a draw on paper as I think you could get. And the way Ostapenko smashed her off the court that day, there was nothing that Swiatek could do. I don't know whether there's anything she could do now as a player who's 9 months further along and who I think is playing considerably better and looks more in control of her serve and more in control of how she moves an opponent. I actually find it one of the most interesting moments in tennis at this point to see what she can do about it against these big hitters, and she's going to have a fill of them over this 2 weeks, I think.
The problem is the big hitters rush her. They make her swings, particularly on her forehand, which is her biggest weapon. They make that swing look really big, and that's going to be most exaggerated on grass, isn't it?
Yeah, because I do think Swiatek has got better at playing these types of players. I think she's constantly improving, but she's not going to just have to contend with those players. She's going to have to contend with the grass beneath her feet, which will just, I think, make her a little bit less sure of herself and certain than she normally is. So, look, I would absolutely love to see that matchup and these matchups generally. It's a fascinating part of the draw.